Hey cousins, welcome to Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas.
Welcome, cousins, to this episode of Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas. This is our season wrap-up for this show. Join me with a quick one and we'll go through some key topics for your consideration. Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas is intended for the participation of responsible adults of legal drinking age who wish to engage in substantive virtual discussions and social drinking for entertainment purposes only. Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas does not advocate the abuse of alcoholic beverages. Choosing to participate in any of the drinking activities shared in the program should be made with moderation and caution and is the sole responsibility of the user. So cousins, keep wearing your masks. We have to. Omicron's out there, Delta's still around, and come on. It's been a tough slog, but we have to continue doing it. So maintain and keep the vigilance, cousins. Wear your mask, get your vaccinations. Let's keep pushing. So cousins, we're coming to the end of another season here at Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas, and I want to thank the production crew and the advisors and directors at Baobab Tree Studios for helping us produce and offer this to you. Hope you appreciate their work and applaud them for their efforts, and thank you, Baobab Tree Studios. So what we do is we kind of go through the maybe a couple, 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 topics that we thought were with interest to bring to your attention one more time again, just tee it up a little bit for the last season. We've come to our 3rd season now, getting ready to move into a whole new year, 2022. So let me just take you through a review of some of the things we talked about in our last season here toward the end, the second half of 2021, all right? So starting off, certainly it occurred in the 2nd season, January 6th, and we all saw that insurrection/rebellion, in my opinion, that occurred at the nation's capital. Within the last 6 months, we now know that a lot of information has started to come out about that rebellion. We also know that the President of the United States at that time did, in fact, in my opinion, you saw the speech, I did as well, attempt to incite a riot, in my opinion. We then have people and cousins who were out there rioting. We also know from now information that there were members of Congress who were texting and communicating while they were being sequestered and protected by the hardworking people from the Capitol staff, some of which passed away as a result of conflicts with the rioters, right? So keep that in mind, cousins, that this actually happened on TV, and let's not forget this, nor let it slip from our minds, because that was a full-fledged, straight-out coup attempt on the United States of America. We now also know from information that's being provided that there were documents of people laid out an entire program or process as to how it could have been taken over, our country. If you notice, the former president also did a lot to change the beginning, or the top, if you will, of the Department of Defense just prior to that January 6th timeframe. The intention there being that those cousins had never had a chance to be fully sworn in, nor evaluated by Congress, and so they didn't have a chance to make an oath to the Constitution, so who were they then supporting, cousins? The Constitution, for all of you who have served in the military, you took an oath to the Constitution of the United States of America, not to any one man or party. So cousins, we have to keep an eye on that. Keep that going until we get to the bottom of it in order to find out what happened. Some cousins, I actually believe, were there for the party. Other cousins were there because they were architects of an attempt to take over the United States of America and end up electing someone, not electing, but declaring someone president who did not have the majority of the votes nor the majority of electoral college votes in the United States of America. Cousins, that was a bad idea, and we need to keep the pressure on to understand how to get to the bottom of that. Why? Because people need to be brought to justice, and we need to know what to do to prevent that sort of thing from ever happening again in the United States of America. Cousins, I've talked to you much too long and too much about COVID-19. I think they refer to Alpha, the first one, Delta, and now the variant of Omicron. Cousins, this is something that never, ever was a political question. It's always been public health. That public health has resulted in over 800,000 cousins passing as a result from COVID-19 at the time of this taping. 800,000 cousins, and millions more who have been impacted by having incurred or being sickened by COVID-19. I had one friend of the family, I had a chance to see a young woman earlier. She was in her 40s, good shape. When she had COVID early in 2021, she got to the point that she couldn't walk up 6 steps in order to get into her house. 6 steps, cousins. And as a result of that, she had lost her taste buds and her sense of smell. Months later, she's now starting to get her taste buds and sense of smell back, such that she says, because she likes sushi, so those of you who like sushi, cousins, there's wasabi, the little spicy green stuff, if you want to take a little bit to put on your sushi, at least I do. She says she can take a teaspoon of wasabi now with no problem. Are you kidding me? Okay. But the point is, think about it, cousins. We had a chance to suppress the COVID-19 virus, and we did not do that. It will forever be our fault for the various modifications and the various variations. And for all the cousins who pass away, we can look at the enemy, as in POGO says, we've met the enemy and it is us. All right? We could have done this. We haven't, because people started misguiding and misrepresenting and gaslighting cousins in order to believe something that wasn't true, when in fact this is really true. Cousins really are expiring as a result of it. Cousins really are getting long-term implications and threats and sicknesses, and we don't know where it's going to end at this point. So keep an eye out for that, cousins. The other factor is we talked about the United States Postal Service. Now, I have an appreciation for the United States Postal Service. I used to work in Post Service back when, a long time ago. I had a summer job there that was fantastic. And I also mentioned to you in one of the shows that, in my opinion, it's being deliberately sabotaged from within by the current Postmaster General. Cousins, appreciate what the post office is doing for us. Why doesn't the United States of America have the best postal service in the world? We have a traditional history of service. We have dedicated people. We have technology. And the only issue that we have is management. Come on, cousins. So support your postal service. Let's see what we can do about changing the management. So you start looking at that, and it says, so what else is going on? Well, cousins, you heard me talk about Texas. Good cousins down in Texas. They had some difficult times this year. With the weather forecast and hurricanes and all this, but also their legislature started doing some things that really didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, cousins. Certainly not in the sense of bringing cousins together, certainly not in the sense of giving cousins more personal freedoms. And I brought this out because, cousins, what they did in Texas in regards to addressing the abortion, trying to get around the federal constitutional requirements, okay, i.e. subverting the Constitution, in my opinion. They then decided the way to do that was turn cousin against cousin. So in order to start to have vigilante justice, so if you were engaged with someone and took them to an abortion clinic, or you were somehow precipitated in helping to make that happen, someone else standing aside could then bring you to trial and have you get, I believe, have to pay fines or something along those lines. I forget exactly what the pieces were. But you'd be legally bound and implicated for helping somebody do that. Something of which is not your business because you were across the street watching something happen. Okay? Now, cousins, I think that was wrong. Forget the side about abortions. It's wrong to turn cousins against cousins, to have people start snitching on each other. Isn't that what we used to talk about with the Iron Curtain and what Russia and all those folks used to do? They used to have citizens pit against one to the other in order to try to dig in and suppress democracy and freedom? Yeah, exactly. So here's the flip side of that, cousins. At this taping, the governor of California and the attorney general of New York, they're saying, oh, well, if the Supreme Court wants to allow that to happen, where you can now have cousins snitching, is the word I want to use on cousins, then we're going to apply that to assault rifles and ghost guns. Whoa, cousins, where does that stop? Okay? So So Supreme Court, in my opinion, is setting us all up to then start looking at this and be tattletaling on each other. Cousins, that's a bad idea. In 2021, we had a chance to exercise our rights to vote. Some of the quote-unquote smaller elections, state legislatures were not small. State legislatures, governors, mayors, and that sort of thing for your municipalities. In 2022, we're getting a chance to move up the rank a little bit. The entire Congress, United States Congress, is going to be reevaluated based upon our determination to vote for them or not. As will some senators, and as will you have to check out your local state officials as who's up for being elected. Participate in that vote, cousins. Get ready now and start paying attention to all the various new election laws that may or may not have been put in place in your state in order to do that. Some states continue to have relatively flexible and recognize we're still in the midst of a pandemic. We are, right? In order to make it things so people could vote efficiently and effectively. Other states try to make it more constrained under the auspices of they're trying to get more integrity in the voting. When in fact, cousins, at this point in time, there has still been no substantial cases of voter fraud in the United States of America. None. And ask anybody. They'll tell you, well, people believe. Well, you can't go by what people believe. When you're trying to make a policy, you have to go on facts, cousins, not solely on beliefs, especially when you can't identify who those alleged people are. That's made up, cousins. And that's a bad idea to base upon policies, right? Policies are supposed to be made up by facts, not because people believe. Come on. So get ready to pay attention, get ready to vote in 2022. Start planning on it now. Infrastructure bill passed. That's a great thing that happened. I certainly wish there had been more collaboration on the part of both parties to come up with the best ideas as to where the implementation of infrastructure should be. I think that the idea of infrastructure only being physical things that we can touch, although important, are not the only infrastructure that's necessary in the 21st century. Aren't the people important? We the people? And so if we the people need things in order to be able to exist, in order to be able to grow and be able to function and become more fully engaged with the new society of the 21st century, aren't those infrastructure questions and issues? I would say so, cousins. Think about all that cousins have to go through to make it through the day. Childcare and education, and we talked about STEM and STEAM in other shows, and the educational requirements and continued growth and enhancements and having telecommunications capability for those cousins in different parts of the country who quite honestly couldn't participate in some of the various aspects that went totally online when we were shut down. Remember that? Those are all infrastructure things, and that's growth and development of your people. That's also where we need to spend time. So to have a hard definition of infrastructure to only be things that you can touch and not looking at the soft things that are your people who actually use all the things we can touch, cousins, I think you need to expand your idea and concept. It's a bad idea to keep it so limited. And last but certainly not least, cousin, and a number of other things we talked about during the course of the year, is that people might say that we're in a race in the world with China. I think that's probably fair. We're not the only combatants, if you will, in a positive sense, but we certainly are clear that China is the second most significant economic power in the world, and the United States. The amount of military influence of China is growing. Their political influence is growing. And the influences that the United States have because of various decisions were made by other presidents at other times has allowed or created vacuums that China was more than willing, capable, and able of filling. If you step away in nature and there's a vacuum created, it's filled by something, right? It's almost a natural law. So now we look at this thing and think about China as being a worthy competitor. There are areas in which China is at pace with us. We've talked about that in space, with the activity of them going to Mars with their rover, which they've done that as well. They had a slingshot moving around, so they have a landing facility on the dark side of the moon. They've created their own space station because at some point in time we had a bad idea and didn't want to allow them to be part of the International Space Station. So they're creating their own. All those are talking about engagement, support, and capabilities on the part of one of the world's oldest civilizations. So why not? So cousins, here's the idea. If China is coming and they're here in regards to edge technologies and all those sort of good things, don't we need to step up our game and become more capable in those areas? Improving our high school and college educations, graduation rates, improving our intellectual capabilities on the part of our cousins in regards to STEM and technology. And let's not forget, we've always had within the United States additional bench strength, if you will, coming in because of the various immigrants who've come to the United States because they wanted a better way of life. But for a number of years here, we were kind of saying, oh, no, we don't want you to come to the United States. Well, come on, folks. That's a bad idea. You don't have to go back too far in any of your families to find an immigrant, do you? Think about it, cousins. Not too far. So let's recognize that we have a worthy competitor and we have to up our game in order to continue to meet and match the opportunity and continue to try to be the winners and be philosophically the winners, as well as economically, politically, and militarily the winners across the world. It's not going to be automatic, and we can't rest on our laurels because no one else is resting on theirs. So cousins, that's kind of like the wrap up, okay? It's like January 6th rebellion. Let's keep a focus on it and bring people to justice. COVID-19, it's still here. We got to fight to keep it away from us. And maybe there'll be another opportunity for us to have a breakthrough and actually win the battle. Support our local post office. You know they're doing the right thing. They're just being mismanaged right now. The Texas law, pitting cousins against cousins, bad idea, okay? Let's try to fix that. Voting, 2022 is going to be a big year for voting. Continue and recognize you have a voting muscle that needs to be exercised every year. Infrastructure bill and our infrastructure, not only physical, but the people we the people need to be taken care of and need to grow as well. And then recognize if you don't have anything else, that China is a worthy opponent in regards to a number of areas. We need to get stronger in order to be able to meet that opposition and try to win. So cousins, I want to wish you all a happy 2022. Here's to you, here's 2022, and may this be your best trip around our sun on our spaceship, planet Earth. Happy 2022.
We are the people. Welcome to the show.